Hey there, everyone. I think we are live now. I am International Living's Panama editor Jessica Ramesh coming to you from Panama City, Panama, where we are still under lockdown. Our numbers have started to get a little bit better this week, though, so fingers crossed. We are hoping that we are finally flattening that curve here in Panama City. Today's topic is a funner one, though. We've done some of the really nitty-gritty nuts and bolts topics like visas and residence, and you can find those videos here on our Facebook page. And today we thought we would take a step back and look at Panamanian culture and traditions, which is definitely part of the reason that I really love living here. And I thought I would start by telling you just a little bit about our population here so that you guys can get an idea of really just how varied it is. Because a lot of times when people talk about Panamanian culture and traditions, they think just of our Spanish colonial heritage. But there is a lot more to it than that. Now, hopefully as I talk, your comments will come up. If anybody is there, this screen is showing me some numbers here. If you guys can hear me okay, please let me know. If you cannot hear me okay, then please let me know as well, and I'll see if I can make the sound a little bit better. I do have a fan on me because it's very warm here today. I'm coming to you a little bit later than I had planned because we had the Wi-Fi go out, which, as I'm sure you can understand, when that happens on a Friday, you're like, oh no, am I gonna have to spend the entire weekend without service? But thankfully we are back up and running. It was just a temporary glitch. I restarted the modem and here we are. So, and I'm still not able to see any comments, but hopefully those will start to pop up. The last time I did one of these using my laptop and not my phone, it took a little while for the comments to show up. Hi, Randall. Thank you so much for letting me know. So Randall says he can hear me just fine. Okay, so let's start, and I'm going to start with sort of going back in time to some of our older culture and traditions here. Panama has, I'm not sure how many of you know this because it's not very well known outside of Panama, but we actually have 7 major indigenous tribes still in existence here in Panama today. We are actually one of, thank you, Pete. Audio is okay, says Pete. So we're actually one of few Central American countries, thank you, Ken, that still have indigenous tribes living in the country. You won't find the same variety immediately to the north of us, for example. And of our 7 major tribes, the 2 best known tribes are probably the Kuna people and the Embera. Hi from Orlando, Nina. So I don't know how many of you have maybe heard of Kunayala or Kunayala. It is on the Caribbean side of Panama. And what the Panamanian government did for its large groups of indigenous peoples was set aside land for them, what you would know as a reserve. They are here known as comarcas, and the Kuna people's comarca is autonomous, so it is basically governed by them. And they have some of the most incredible Caribbean islands under their jurisdiction. And what their intent is, what they're very intent on is to keep that clean, pristine, and to preserve their traditional ways of life. So they don't allow big development. You're not going to find any resorts on these islands, just little huts that look very much like the huts they lived in 100, 200, 300 and more years ago. They still engage in traditional fishing. They use panga boats, motorboats, to get from one island to another, small boats, and fish for lobster and sell fish to people who come in on their boats, but that traffic is limited and only a limited amount of tourists can visit this area. So if you go to Kunayala, you'll be able to see how the Kuna people live traditionally, but it's unlikely that you would be able to witness any of their festivals. There are very precious few outsiders that have been witness to their festivals, but you can read a lot. There's a lot of material available online on Amazon and just online in general about their culture. You can read about their festivals. They have very specific religious or spiritual beliefs rooted in nature. And they're very well known for, they've been studied because they have very low incidences of heart disease. They're very well known for consuming huge amounts of cacao or cocoa. They mash the beans and make it into a very strong drink. This is not your average cup of cocoa with milk and sugar, but a potent, potent brew. that they drink in large quantities, and scientists have actually studied them to understand whether there is a link between that, they believe there is, and their excellent heart health. Now, you can take tours to the Kuna region. I definitely highly recommend it, but only for those who are okay with roughing it. Because as I said, there are no big resorts, no big hotels there. Lots of times what you're agreeing to do is sleep in a hut, eat what they fish from the sea, very, very simple food, things like grilled lobster, and maybe a little bit of rice. You're not going to have, a huge selection of salads and vegan or vegetarian foods if you go to this region. So it's all about just being out on the beach and almost like camping. Now, the next tribe that I want to tell you about is the Embera tribe. And you can go on tours to some of their comarca or reserve areas. Actually, they have some that are very close to Panama City. Both tribes have, you can fly from Panama City to Kunayala on a 20-minute flight if you are not afraid of little planes. And you can get to some of the Embera communities within a couple hours. You can book tours through organizations like Gamboa or ANCON. And if you go to one of their communities, they'll show you how they cook their food, they'll show you how they live, they'll show you some of their dances, and you can even get your arms painted with their traditional henna-like tattooing, which lasts a couple weeks and is made from a local fruit or nut called hagua. They extract a black ink from this. It's very similar to what people refer to as black henna, and it's traditional for them to paint their faces and their arms in geometric designs and sometimes blocks of color. Very beautiful, actually. And you can also look at and buy their handicrafts. They're known for a lot of different types of handicrafts. They're master craftspeople. My favorites are the intricately woven baskets. They have some that are cruder weaves that'll cost you a little bit less if you're just interested in a colorful souvenir to take home. But the really, really fine weaves that take much, much longer, a lot more work to work on those fibers to get them thin enough and then to do the actual coloring and weaving of the baskets. And they will hold water. They're woven so tightly. So that's really something interesting to see and do when you come down here. And so those are the two major tribes. And then we come forward in history to our Afro-Panamanian culture. So I mentioned earlier that we're really known for our Spanish culture, but in Panama, actually, the Afro-Panamanian community has been here for many, many years and has really colorful costumes and dances and festivals that, if you get the opportunity to witness, are very fun. Many of the Afro-Panamanians that we have here were forced over as slaves during Spanish colonial times. So we're talking 500 or more years ago. Panama City is over 500 years old now. And then you have a lot of Afro-Panamanians who are the descendants of people who came here to work on the Panama Canal project from places like Barbados and Jamaica. So these communities, you will find Afro-Panamanians all over Panama, of course, but they largely settled in the Bocas del Toro province and in the Colón province of Panama. And both provinces have sights to see. They're great areas to visit if you would like to see sort of that side of Panama that's a little bit off the beaten path that not every tourist gets to go to. The Colón province, I always recommend skipping Colón City, which is one of our only high crime areas. But the rest of the province outside of that capital city, there's lots to see. One of the most popular historic sites being the town of Portobello, where you can see ancient fortifications and cannons. And there you have, during carnival time every year, and just after carnival every year, you have important festivals in that region where the local dance troops, sometimes referred to as congos, will come out in costumes that are very colorful and wearing masks that might be a little scary to the little ones if you're traveling with grandkids or kids that are young. These papier-mâché Diablo or devil's masks they're actually really beautiful, but they're part of the tradition, particularly that pre-Lent carnival tradition, which I'm going to come back to in a moment. So if you get a chance to witness that in the Colón province, that's something really special and that not many tourists get a chance to see. You would have to plan your trip carefully so that you're here in time, and those dates change every year depending on the lunar cycle. So you would have to just, look it up depending on when you're planning to be here to see when the Carnival Festival is happening. And Carnival dates all over the world tend to be the same, so just look up the dates for Carnival in general, and Google will give them to you for whatever year you're interested in. Now, I mentioned Bocas del Toro, which is another province where you will find Afro-Panamanian culture to be very strong. Bocas del Toro every year has its own festival as well that typically takes place later in the year, August, September. And in Bocas del Toro, you will find not only a lot of Afro-Panamanians with their traditions, dances, culture, you will also find one of our other indigenous comarcas. So one of our largest indigenous groups, the Nobe, or the Nobe Bugle people, they have their reserve lands or comarca between the provinces of Chiriquí and Bocas del Toro. And these comarcas or reserve lands are not tiny. They are the size of some of our provinces. They're large, large areas. So the Nobe, or the Nobe Bugle tribes in this region, also have autonomous jurisdiction in their province. You can visit their islands and learn about their culture and buy handicrafts from them, but they determine how many people can come into the area, and generally speaking, you cannot buy property or build big resort type deals on their lands. Their intent is to keep them, as I said before, traditional, clean, pristine, and really preserve those ecosystems as well, which is really cool. So Afro-Panamanian culture, indigenous culture, and now we come to, as I mentioned before, some of our culture and folklore comes from Spanish colonial traditions. And this is probably what most of you are familiar with. One of the things that you'll see the most on posters, postcards around the country is the traditional dress associated with Panama's folklore. And this is actually known as one of the most beautiful national costumes in the world, the pollera, which is the costume worn by women. Men wear a costume as well, known as the montuno, but it's really that beautifully embroidered pollera dress that gets attention. The most expensive polleras take months to craft and are hand embroidered. I do have some photos here on our Facebook page, so you can flick through our photos there and see some photos and videos of polleras and people doing the traditional dances. And a lot of times people will assume that it's just one type of dance, but no, there are multiple types of dances with specific steps, and there are multiple types of polleras. The one you'll see the most is a very beautiful off-the-shoulders dress. It has a blouse with frills on it. It's typically worn with very specific gold jewelry, including a choker and a sort of chain of gold coins or medallions. The headdress is also a very intricate headdress. Traditionally, the little adornments that go all over the woman's head here were made of shiny fish scales. Nowadays, it's a little bit harder to find those. If you do find them, they're definitely worth buying if you'd like to have them. But nowadays, a lot of the cheaper versions are made out of beads, either the traditional white or pearl colored, or really colorful, beautiful, sort of newfangled adornments, which are very pretty as well. And then the pollera tends to come in at the waist and then come out in ruffles from the waist. And like I said, hand embroidered, very beautiful. Some of them are just white on white embroidery, and some of them are very colorful. And then you have other pollera type costumes that have completely colored skirts that are not always embroidered, but sometimes patterned with flowers and the like. So lots of different types of costumes, different types of dances with their own specific steps that you can see all over the country, but the region of Panama that is best known for its polleras and for its festivals is the Azuero Peninsula of Panama. And the Azuero Peninsula is a large, fat peninsula that juts south into the Pacific Ocean. If you pull up a map of Panama, you'll see that fat peninsula. And it is made up of parts of the provinces of Los Santos Herrera, and part of Veragua. So there's actually parts of 3 provinces on that peninsula, all known for their festivals. They like to say that they have some 700 festivals a year on the Azuero Peninsula. I've never tried to count them all, but they certainly do have a lot. So no matter what time of year you come here, if you're interested in seeing that sort of old Spanish colonial traditional Panama, you can generally head to the Azuero Peninsula any time of year, catch a festival, buy, parts of the pollera costume or a full pollera costume if you want to lay out that much money, and experience see some of the dances, eat some of the foods, that sort of thing. Now, the best known festival in this region is our annual Carnival Festival. So I mentioned that Afro-Panamanian regions have their own carnival festivals. Well, the best known carnival is on the Azuero Peninsula in Panama. And we do get a lot of people that come from outside Panama to attend our carnival. A lot of people say it's second only to the carnival in Rio de Janeiro in the Americas. And it's very similar. You've got the really big floats that take a whole year almost to put together. I've seen paper mache fire-breathing dragons on these floats and genies that are, I don't know how many feet tall, that tower into the sky. The women wear these costumes that weigh, like 100 pounds with the headdress, and they're dancing the entire time on the float, which takes incredible strength and stamina, but it is a beautiful thing to behold. And if you attend a carnival celebration, you'll hear people saying that they are celebrating the pagan god Momo during carnival, which might surprise you because Panama is a predominantly Catholic country. But the tradition around carnival is all about letting loose and having 4 days of debauchery, basically, a bacchanalian, where drinking and dancing into the wee hours is a big part of it. And then it ends right as Lent is beginning, and that is when your average Panamanian will make sacrifices for the 40 days of Lent. So both Carnival and Lent, and then the following Easter tradition, very, very much a part of Panamanian life here in Panama. I highly recommend a trip to the Azuero Peninsula if you want to see that where it all started, Panama's old Spanish roots. And if you want to go to a festival, your chances are good, as I said, any time of year of catching something amazing there. One of the little known festivals outside of Panama, that is, in that region, takes place in the little town of Guarare every year. And the dates will vary every year, so you can just Google for those or contact me. And that is the Festival de la Mejorana, or the Mejorana guitar. And it's a small Spanish guitar that is still handmade in this region of Panama. And they have a whole festival built around it with lots of music, lots of dancing. If you listen to the Panamanian típico traditional music, it'll almost remind you of some of the yodeling traditions of Europe. They have their own yodeling traditions, but there's a lot of fun and poking fun at people if you understand Spanish and you listen to the lyrics of the songs. Sometimes they'll do this calling back and forth where they're insulting each other and making fun of each other. It took me a while to be able to understand enough Spanish that I could even catch some of it, but that was very enriching for me when my Spanish got good enough that I could understand some of it. I still don't understand all of it. And they are really funny. And it's almost like, rap battles in the US where people go back and forth and they haven't prepared anything, but they're so clever and they come up with things that rhyme and with really good burns or insults, and everybody's laughing and dancing and having a wonderful time. So I know that some of you are probably wondering, when you might be able to visit Panama again. We still don't know. International flights have been stopped, and they keep doing it for 30 days and saying we'll reevaluate and let you know if we're extending it. It was just extended again through the end of August, so we don't know whether at the end of August we can expect regular commercial flights to start up again, or whether there will be another extension. I'd say there's a good chance that there might be another extension. Your best bet at learning about what's going on in terms of flights into Panama is to follow Copa Airlines. You can follow them on social media if you prefer, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you like. or you can go to their website and sign up so that you get updates through email if you prefer that. Those can sometimes be a lot more detailed. And whenever the international flights open up again and you're able to come down and visit, I hope that some of what I've talked about here today has piqued your interest, and maybe you get a little time to go off the beaten path and see some of the festivals, the lesser known festivals, visit some of the areas that not every tourist gets to, like Portobello in the province of Colón, or like Bocas del Toro. The Caribbean islands of Bocas del Toro are every bit as beautiful as the Bahamas. I know because I used to work on Carnival Cruise Lines and I was there every week. And the good thing about Bocas del Toro is it's never crowded. You can generally find a stretch of beach on which you can relax and not have to fight with crowds for a bit of sand to lay your towel in, or wade in amongst hundreds of people into the water. We still have a lot of areas that are little islands that are uninhabited and where a boat can dock for the day and let you have your own desert island for the day, which is probably one of my favorite experiences here in Panama. So I see some comments here. Let's try and get to these if there are any questions. Ken Perkins, are you in Boquete? No, Ken, right now I am in Panama City. I would love for a change of scenery to be on the beach or in Boquete right now, but we're actually not allowed to move between the provinces of Panama and the adjacent province of Panama Oeste. Right now we have the highest number of cases, which is to be expected because this is the region where the capital city is located, so I cannot travel to other regions of Panama right now because of the COVID crisis. As soon as I can, though, I will be very excited to get back to my usual schedule of travel around the country. Taya, hi from England, UK. Hey, Taya, thanks for joining us. Suhas, hello from down under Australia. Wow, thank you for joining us, Suhas. What time is it there? Louise Johnston, hola, hello. Victoria, yes, it's being recorded, so you guys should be able to watch back if you missed part of this or just want to watch it again. Sanji, hi from New York, Sanji. I hope you guys are doing okay over there, staying safe, everyone. Lorianne, hi from Rochester. Thanks for joining us, Lorianne. Sanji, thinking about Caribbean retirement. Well, some of those areas that I mentioned today may have piqued your interest. I hope so. Let us know if you do visit. Gary, I hear some of the Kuna ask for a donation from tourists who wish to take their picture. Absolutely. This tribe has been exploited for many years, and you should absolutely ask for permission, buy something, or ask if they would like a donation before trying to take a picture of them. They will hide their face from you because too many people have already profited off of them and they don't always see any benefit from that. Kelly O'Brien, hi from Seattle, Washington. Love hearing about other cultures. Thank you so much, Kelly. I do too. I really still love reading and hearing about other cultures. While I can't travel internationally for a while, I'm spending my time reading. Bill Forrester, hi from Cleveland, Ohio. Hey, Bill, thanks for joining us. Gary has a question here. What is the market for teachers who teach English as a second language? Traditionally, there has been a high demand for people who teach English as a second language, whether you want to do that as a tutor or in a school or online. So I don't know what the situation is going to be now coming out of the pandemic. We are definitely going to have a lot more Panamanians who are out of work and who are qualified to do that. So perhaps it might be a little bit more competitive. We'll just have to see, but traditionally demand has been very high. Bill Forrester, pictures, lots of pictures in our albums, lots of videos right here on this Facebook page, Bill. Go ahead and go through those. Let us know what your favorite is. Aaron, baskets that hold water. Wow, yeah, it is really something, quite a craft. Ken Perkins has a recommendation for Gary. Wonderful, thank you, Ken. Sanji, where is Frog Beach and how is this area? Sanji, Frog Beach is in the Bocas del Toro province that I discussed for a little while. If you missed that, you should be able to watch it once I end this live video. Erin Adele Tucker, how do you spell the Spanish dress, the pollera? It's P as in Paul, O-L-L-E-R-A, and you'll see photos and information on it right here on our Facebook page. I see that somebody provided that information. Thank you, Nina. Let's see if we have any other questions that I can answer from you guys here. Oh, thank you, James. Aren't you sweet? Aaron, thanks. Thanks to you. Ken Perkins wants to know, what would you say is the national dish? That's a great question. Definitely a big part of the culture here is the food here. There are a few dishes that are that get mentioned in conjunction with Panamanian culture, no matter where you go. One of the most popular dishes is sancocho, which is the Panamanian version of like a penicillin chicken soup type deal if you're sick or if you're partying into the wee hours and then need a little snack so you can keep partying until dawn. Sancocho is typically the dish that is served, and it is a chicken soup. But here it is made with big chunks of vegetables and tubers. And we have a lot of really unique different tubers that grow here that are similar in texture to the potato. We have the yuca, which you may be familiar with, and some others that you may not have heard of, such as otoe, which is purplish in color, delicious starchy root vegetable like a potato, and nyame, which has a little bit of a slimy texture. Not everybody loves nyame, but it is traditional to put it in that soup. It might even thicken up the soup a little bit, I'm not sure. But traditionally, sancocho is delicious no matter where you get it in Panama, a really great deep flavor chicken soup. And in places where it's made over an open fire, it'll also have that smoky flavor from the wood that's being used to heat the fire. Gary from Washington, D.C. Oh, good to see you here, Gary. Thanks for chiming in all those times. And Suhas says that it is 9 a.m. in Brisbane, Australia. Well, it is 6 p.m. here in Panama. I'd say it's just about my cocktail hour since I can't go anywhere. Wherever you are in the world, everyone else, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for joining me today. Again, please keep reading, keep researching. You'll be able to get down here if you're interested in getting down here sooner than you think, I hope. And until then, we will keep posting information, photos, and videos. So be well, stay safe, and thank you. Bye.